right, this week we are taking a long and epic journey as we follow our good friend Beau as he takes a journey back to his mother. Along the way, he is treated to a visually exciting and at times confusing 3-hour therapy session that deals with childhood trauma, suppressed guilt, suppressed sexuality, mental illness, anxiety, self-discovery, and just many, many things that can go on, and we shall. Zach, we shall.
Well, Hunter, I'm excited to talk about this film.
Yes.
And I need to ask you the question. But is Beau Is Afraid Good?
Well, that's not a very easy question to answer, as you'll soon find out. But perhaps we can come to a relatively general consensus as a group in roughly an hour or so.
Together.
Let's do that.
But is it good podcast? Yeah.
Welcome.
Can you imagine if we cut, once we start posting episodes on YouTube, which I think is in the works.
We are posting audio. Audio's on YouTube.
Yeah, but once we start posting video, we cut, and it's just like
it's just our faces.
Face. You know how you can I don't know if you set the camera if it's like a post-op thing, but it just like follows the face. You know what I'm talking about? Like those videos
so some Macs actually have that built in. I'm not even sure how to do it.
Okay.
I don't know if it would be on this I think Zoom has it. I don't know if this platform has it.
Can you imagine recording an episode and we're like running around a track? But there's just a camera just like tracking our face, so it's just like it's dead center the entire time. This is the kind of stuff I think about.
What we need to get
Welcome.
is like in the film industry, it's called something, but it's like you wear
Steadicam?
Yeah, Steadicam. Maybe it is Steadicam, but like you wear it as it's like a backpack and it comes over. What if we just had but like facing our faces?
Right.
And then we're just like running with that.
Recording the episode.
We should do that and like record it on a green screen.
Okay, so like a treadmill situation?
Like on a treadmill.
Yeah.
And just like on a green screen. And so we could just run around the planet.
We like legitimately should do this. Welcome to episode 119 of the But Is It Good podcast. Hunter is popping a bump.
Yeah, that hurts. Ouch.
Why are you popping it? Just let it be.
Oh, wait, I got it. Ow.
Your body will pop it when it's ready, you know?
There's no fun in that. Hey, I'm Hunter. I'm your host.
Hi, I'm Zach, and I'm your host. And this is the But Is It Good podcast, where we discuss a movie that we watched in the past week. And we have a good time.
And we ask the question, the most important question. Mm-hmm. And the beauty of this question is that it can be applied to so many different things in life.
Right.
Dinner, your love life, your date, your hair, your conscience.
That morning.
But is it good?
That morning pee,
That's good. That's usually pretty good.
That's always good. Yeah.
We asked
that'd
the question.
That'd be a one episode.
One episode podcast. Yes, it's good. We asked the question, but is it good? Are your favorite movies? Thanks for checking us out.
Yes.
I hope you like it and then subscribe to it. And if you really want, you can leave a review.
You can.
And a rating. Did you know that what you're listening to right now on Spotify and Apple Music is a 5-star rated podcast?
That's awesome. Is it? I thought Apple separated it, so it was like the podcast app. Is that not accurate?
It's like Apple Podcasts, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
But on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, we are a 5-star rated podcast.
5 stars out of how many? How many stars do they rate out of?
5. We have the most you can get.
We are batting 1,000. We're 10 of 10 from the floor if we were playing basketball, right?
We're 119 for 119 as of today. As of this episode.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Anyway, we're doing Beau Is Afraid. Zach, are you afraid?
Mostly.
Yeah. So this was very relatable for you.
Honestly, this movie was very relatable for me in a lot of ways.
It actually was, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, which is hilarious,
alarming,
and
it's
terrifying.
Kind of alarming.
Yeah, at the same time. Yeah, I'm afraid. I'm. We'll get
Actually,
there.
hold on. I so rudely didn't ask. How are you?
I'm good.
Me and Zach
good.
had a fight. We had a feud.
We did have a fight because Hunter has a twin brother. His name's Trey.
Well,
He's a
wasn't
veterinarian.
actually a fight, just so everyone's clear.
He's a veterinarian. You interrupted me while I was talking about our fight.
Are we fighting again?
Trey comes into town like 3 times a year, maybe 4, because he lives out in Cali, out on the West Coast, whereas we are on the East Coast. And we were going out, and Hunter had an opportunity to come out with us after his show because Hollis was well taken care of. He was with Gammy and Paw.
Yeah.
And they love him, and they'll watch him forever. You could just leave him there, and
That is true. He would love that.
he would love that. Yeah. Anyways, and Hunter didn't come out, and it got under my skin,
Well, let me try to explain to my to our listeners that it was not just up to me. I was not alone. I was with Hannah. As you eat your fucking cereal. Excuse my language.
Okay, but let's walk this back a little bit.
Hold on a
because
second. Wait.
who chose to marry Hannah? Did Hannah choose to marry Hannah?
I guess it all comes back to my.
All comes back to you.
She said yes. I had to just all I could do was ask. All I could do was ask. Anyway, I went to see a concert with a good friend of mine, Abe Parker. He's playing in Atlanta. And my friend Gafar was playing in his band, and so I went to see him. And we did not leave the venue till about 11 o'clock because after the show we stayed, hung out for a little bit, got a chance to say hey to Abe. And we had not had dinner. So we opted to have a little date night moment, and we went to one of our favorite restaurants in Midtown, Cafe Intermezzo. It's amazing. And it took a while. So we didn't even get done. We didn't even leave the restaurant until midnight. You're not even listening to me, are you? You're not even listening.
I'm pulling up the receipts to make sure your timeline's accurate.
All right. And I have the receipts too. Let me see here. Yeah, we sat down for dinner at like 11:15, and didn't leave till after midnight. And here's the thing: I had to get up at like 6:30 to go get Hollis, okay? Because my mom, while she had graciously watched him the night before, had told us that she needed him to be picked up pretty early because they had a lot to do that day. We had a shower to go to. And we had like an hour drive home. So while you guys were going to Uber back to your place and crash, we would have had to have driven like an hour.
I had an air mattress, and
I understand that. But we would have had to have had to get Hollis at like 7 o'clock in the morning.
We don't need to have this fight on air, but I do want to say that for weeks, here's what gets under my up in my crawl, or whatever the saying is, right? Here's what really grinds my gears. for weeks you had been leading on that, yeah, we're going to try to come out. And it sounds like from the beginning of the night it was clear that you were not going to, and you didn't let us know. That's what gets under my skin.
That is not entirely true. I had.
Well, it's not, when did
I
you
had
find out
the
that?
desire.
When did you find out?
I had the desire to meet up with you guys, but previously, maybe I didn't tell you, but I had told Trey and Chase, I'll let you guys know it's probably unlikely, but we'll see.
See, that was not relayed to me.
If we had gotten dinner beforehand, the odds of us coming out to see you guys were much, much higher.
Okay, so again, this
But
falls on you.
All I can say is you called me something that I've never been called in my life, and I was very hurt. And you called me an entire list of things. And I'm not about to tell you those lists of what those things were, because that's actually not what you said. You said, and I quote, "You are a list." I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, I was probably trying to say something else.
In case you guys can't tell, we're joking. I'm sure you were mad at me, but whatever.
It was around the same time that Trey texted, just to let you know what frame of mind we were in. Trey texted me and said, "We are haunted, the bar T."
Trey texted me yesterday morning, and I said was you. And then I said me, and he said her. And I said he, and he said her too. And that was literally all he said. Anyway, yeah.
Human epidermal
growth receptor.
Growth receptor.
Two. All right, let's get into the movie. You ready?
Yeah. So, Hunter, what are your first impressions of Beau Is Afraid?
So, this movie, we saw it together in Midtown. We missed the first 5 minutes, unfortunately. So that first 5 minutes could have changed my entire perception of the film. I'm just kidding. I'm trying to be funny. I'm not very good at it. This movie was an experience. It truly was an experience. I feel like it's one of the most challenging films I've ever seen. It is a technical masterpiece, and I think the direction is phenomenal. And I think you have no choice but to respect the film. But I will say for me that as it sat with me over the past few days, I like it more and more. When we left the theater, I think even you said this, I was kind of like in shock.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of like, I've got to process this. I can say during the film, I was completely enamored and I was completely sucked in the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
There are some aspects of the film that I think are maybe a little too far out there in the sense of like so literal, but at the same time so metaphorical and symbolic that people might
at the
take
same time.
Yes, and I'll explain that. It's about the thing in the attic. Like that's so outrageous that you're kind of like, what in the world am I looking at? But then there's also, as a whole, I think the film is really, really powerful because unfortunately it is very relatable. And I related this film, one, as a person who has a parent, as all people do, but also as somebody who has a kid, seeing kind of both sides. It was really fascinating. But I think the performances were great. There's so much. But I actually think, as it's kind of out with me, I actually really did like it. And those are my thoughts. Zach?
Okay.
What about you?
Yeah. So this movie, 3-hour runtime. I think I was in shock for about 2.5 of that. Just because the plot unfolds in a way that is so unexpected, and it keeps you on your toes. I'll say that this is like, Ari Aster's The Odyssey, right? It's just this journey across, time and space. It takes us to landscapes that, we are not familiar with. Some of my favorite films do that kind of stuff, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, Interstellar. I would argue that Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind has some similarities to this film, and those are some of my favorite films. So this just the style of this film is primed to work in my favor and be something that I would really enjoy. I think Joaquin Phoenix did a phenomenal job because he doesn't act. I don't know. It feels like he's not acting directly at the audience. I don't know how to explain it, but he does it in a way that's subtle, and I just think he did a phenomenal job. I think everyone associated with the film, like all the other actors in the film, did a phenomenal job as well. And the more I've thought about it, which has been a few days now, I think it's so funny because the reviews have been pretty polarizing. There's a lot. In our theater. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here, but
no, you're good.
Even in our theater, when we were leaving, there were two camps of people. There were the people that were thinking, "Did I just pay money to watch that?"
Yep.
And then there were the people that were thinking, "Did that only cost $12?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's. But I'll say that I think that this is my favorite first watch since Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Wow.
That we've reviewed on the podcast. Like this, I loved it.
High praise right there.
I loved it because, I mentioned Interstellar, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and those movies have those aspects that I was talking about. It's this like dreamlike, ethereal, taking us across time and space, and all these wacky things. We go into like the absurd, and this movie has a lot of the absurd. But those movies are all grounded in, like, one of the main themes in all of those movies is love, right? And in this movie, it's fear, and I think that's a really interesting direction to take it. I wasn't sure if this was going to be a true horror film. I think it was. Like, this film was terrifying to me personally. And no, I thought it was phenomenal. I can see why people wouldn't like it. But this is my like niche. This is my niche in the film world.
I told Hannah and like her, my mother-in-law and people in my life, I said, I think most people in my life would probably hate this movie.
Yeah.
I said Zach is kind of the only person that I am close to that I would be like, yeah, I'm down for this. Mm-hmm. And there's gonna be. I was listening to like reviews from somebody, and they were saying theaters need to make their refund policy very clear, because there's gonna be folks who, like, I feel bad for folks who don't know what they're getting into, because they're gonna be like, I don't like what is happening. Yeah. And even folks that are just like, oh, I liked Hereditary, let's go watch this. It's not like, it's a different. And you can't actually ever really be fully prepared for what you're going to get, but you kind of have to know. Mm-hmm. Like, the film wants you to just kind of surrender to it, and you kind of have to do that in order to, like, really kind of go along with it. Because, you think to yourself, this can't get any weirder, and then the next scene happens, and you're like, oh, actually, it can. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it does.
But yeah, that's some high praise, though. I'm excited to dive in. But first, we must discuss the
spoilers.
Spoiler monster in the attic.
Mm.
He's up there.
Which in itself could be, but...
Yeah.
But we're going up anyways, because at this point, you're aware...
you're in it.
So we're pulling down the ladder. I mean, y'all know, if y'all have seen Midsommar and Hereditary, both of those have spooky things in the attic. That's like one of his defining things that he puts in movies. So there's something spooky in the attic, and we're going to look up there, and what's that spooky thing?
It's a spoiler.
Oh, my God. That's...
Oh. They're eating her, and then they're going to eat me. Oh, my God. Have you seen that clip?
I have. What's that from?
I don't know. It's like the Goonies 2 or something like that. It's not. Okay. It's not, might be the Goonies, but it's from. It's one of the worst. It's like the worst acting of all time. Doesn't matter. Deep cut. So that's time for Movie in a Minute. I have the privilege of trying to explain this movie.
You want me to give you a song?
Yeah, give me a song while I pull up a timer, please.
Boom. Do do do. Do 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 do. Movie in a minute. Gonna talk about it in 60 seconds. Do 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 do. Talk about the movie in 60 seconds. Do do do. Ow. Boo do boo do boo do boo.
Sick, amazing. All right, this is Beau Is Afraid
Mm.
in exactly 60 seconds, no more, no less. Every scene, every detail, every line of dialogue. I'm gonna set the bar high for myself. Just kidding. Here we go.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
In 3, 2, 1. All right, we meet Beau. He's born. He's going to therapy. You know, he has some mommy issues. He lives in what Fox News thinks is an urban city, how they would describe an urban city. Anyway, it's falling apart. There's people dying on the streets, decay. There's drug users, blah, 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 a bunch of crazy stuff. He takes his medicine without any water, doesn't have any water. He's trying to go see his mom, but his key gets stolen. And then he just kind of, things start happening. He's trying to get home. He's, attacked by this guy and just falls out of a ceiling, and he's running around naked and then gets stabbed, gets hit by a car and stabbed by another naked dude. This couple takes him in the suburbs. They stitch him up. He's trying to get home. They're like, we'll take you tomorrow, but their teenage daughter is going crazy. She kills herself, and he gets blamed for it. So he runs out into the woods, and they send this guy who has PTSD after him. He goes on this long metaphorical journey in this play. Anyway, he gets back home to his mom. His mom faked her death. He goes through this trauma, goes on trial in his brain, and then a boat capsizes and he dies.
It's pretty good.
I missed so much. I missed the fact where he has sex with Elaine and she dies. We're in spoiler territory.
Mm-hmm.
I missed the giant penis monster. I can't believe I didn't mention the giant penis monster.
You missed the phone call with Bill Hader where he finds out that his mom is dead, even though she's not actually.
Oh, yeah.
When he sees her on the laptop and then throws up on it. Or does he see Elaine?
I think he sees Elaine.
Okay. Makes him
Anyway, let's do our best. So here's what I'm proposing, and it's not going to be perfect because there's a lot of stuff, but I was telling Zach earlier we should do the city, the suburbs, the woods, and then his home.
Mm-hmm. It'll be messier than that, but that's what we're going to do.
It will. Those are the sections. Before we start, I do want to mention just off the top, if you like films and you are interested in filmmaking and the technical aspect of filmmaking, this movie is a masterclass. The framing, the colors, the direction, I loved. This is just, I want to be brief. I just want to mention it. There are so many lingering shots. How long he held shots, editing is all incredible. Whether or not you like these kind of movies, whether or not you end up liking this film as a story and what it says, forget about that. Just looking at it on the surface as a technical piece is impeccable. I don't know if you would agree, but those are my thoughts on what
I do agree. Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. Every shot's intentional, and I think this is a film that I think some modern film teachers are going to use this film and be like, look at this. Look how cool this is. Mm-hmm. This is cool.
Yeah, there's tons of great, just tons of great frames. There's a 20-minute dream sequence that is one of the coolest sequences in the entire film. I think it's 20 minutes. It's long as hell. And it blends CG and green screen and real life stuff and animation, and it's just really, really crazy. So just know that if you like movies and are interested in film and the industry and the process and the filmmaking, you got to see this movie. You just got to.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, let's dive in. We're starting in the city. Now, preface this by saying me and Zach missed the first 5 minutes.
Well, so the first 5 minutes open. Can I tell you something funny?
Please.
I have an AMC membership, so I can get tickets, 3 tickets a week, and I can go see 3 movies a week for free. Mm-hmm. So because we missed the first 5 minutes, I went and I watched the first half of the movie again, and then I had to head back. I had to head down to Peachtree City today.
Oh, nice.
So I saw the first 5 minutes,
Okay, sweet.
and it's all we missed was Beau's mom giving birth to him. We hear her like cries and screams, and he comes out, and he's not crying or anything. He's just like staring at her with a look of guilt, like already. I don't know how they put baby guilt on a baby face, but they did it. So anyways, that's what we missed. And then he's in therapy with his therapist.
Gotcha.
Dr. Cohen, right? No.
Yeah.
No, not Dr. Cohen.
It's the guy from Dune.
Dr. Jeremy Friel.
And it's obviously implied that he's got some issues with his mother, some unresolved things with his mother. But let's just talk about like as a whole, and we can kind of discuss things here and there if you want. But like from therapy to when he gets hit by the car, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Thoughts?
So my impression when watching it was that Beau is a man who has a lot of pent up anxiety. Just like it seems like someone who's been overprotected and oversheltered their entire life and sees everything around them as a threat. In a similar way to like the main character in Pink Floyd's The Wall, like so I didn't get the sense that he was actually living in a city where like there was a man named Birthday Boy Stabman who was running around the city butt naked stabbing people and wasn't being caught, or like just mobs of the mob like right outside his apartment building.
That's constant, like the constant.
Constant. There's the one guy that's dancing.
Who's dancing the entire time.
Yeah, he was my favorite. But when we were watching it, I didn't get the sense that was like those were things that were actually happening, right? I got the sense that those were like manifestations of his internal anxiety about what could happen in the world around him. Like he had the Fox News brain.
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
now later in the movie it gets convoluted and maybe those things were real, I'm not sure. But that's the sense that I get, and I think it's really well done. But it's surreal. We're in surreal territory in my opinion, because it doesn't like this would not exist in the world today, right? A place where there's people just outside with AK. Well, maybe there are places where people are just out on the street with AK-47s, you know. But you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, like where the guy jumps off the building and then his body just lays there for like a week.
Right. Dude is literally rotting on the ground. Dude, the guy was on his phone like, we're trying to get him to jump.
Yeah. Like this, dude. I thought it was just. It's so good. This first section of the film, you have to. I mean, it's almost satirical in nature, for where it's like this super outlandish, like over the top. And I don't mean to disrespect, I guess, anybody who's a fan of that channel, but like it feels like what Fox News thinks an urban city is like. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like have you been to San Francisco?
No, I haven't.
So
you missed that conversation when you didn't come out with us because we were talking about California.
So it's painted as like this dumpy, homelessness everywhere, shithole city. And look, there's like a corner, like a block where they go. It's real. There's footage. You can see it. But like when we went there, it's just so far from what you actually experience.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Or like even here in Atlanta, like you're like, oh, if you go into Atlanta, you're gonna get shot, and it's like, well, I mean, I guess you
not
technically,
necessarily
I guess
true.
you technically could, but like you can
could
get shot anywhere. And so, like you're saying, it feels like, whether it's real or not, if it's not, then it's this projection of like, what he's been kind of, I guess what he maybe expects, or what he's kind of seeing, every single possible thing that could possibly be bad is right outside his door.
Right. It's a projection of his worldview, right? Because like it's clear early on that Beau doesn't make decisions for himself. He's very submissive. And, I mean, he gets on the phone with his mom, and he's like, I lost my keys. You know, I don't have a key to my apartment. What do you think I should do? And she gaslights him, and we can talk about that in a second. But all that to say, we get the impression that Beau, everything that he believes, he's gotten from his mother. Like, that's the impression that I get right from the beginning and from the previews of the film, right?
Yeah.
I do want to say real quick, this is like a pretty big, like stylistically, this is a departure from like the tone of Hereditary. I mean, we can talk about Hereditary because we reviewed that on the podcast.
Hereditary is
that
not
was
a fun movie.
No, it's very serious. It's dark from the get go. Is there any real comic relief? Like there's not.
Not that I can recall at least.
You just feel gross from like the first 10 minutes in, you know, and whereas this film is funny throughout.
Yes.
But even the humor, I still felt anxiety because, and this is literally like a meme on Twitter that came out like a week before the movie. It was Robert De Niro's face, you know, like his like signature look, like from like Meet the Fockers or whatever. When he's looking at you, he's like, "What the hell?" And he's got that look, and it says, "You're laughing. Beau is afraid, and you're laughing." And that's like what this movie is, because Beau, at no point in the film does Beau like recognize things as being funny, right? Yep. He's in hell. This movie is Beau in hell, right?
Yep.
And so even when I'm laughing, like I feel, because Joaquin Phoenix's performance is, you know, it's great. Anyways, I don't mean to hijack the
Well, no, but I mean it's just
the conversation.
It's really interesting. Just like, you know, as the film goes on, the concept of fear is always present, but it gets, in my opinion, a little less obvious. I mean, he's always afraid, yes, but it shifts from being like, oh, I've got to get home, like that becomes his focus. Not so much like I'm afraid of everything. Fear is still the central theme, but in this first opening, section, fears. Go on.
Well, but the reason he needs to get home, and the reason he's willing to put himself in harm's way, the reason why after he's been hit by a car and he's literally has stitches coming out and he's bleeding all over the place, he still has the drive to get home, is because all of that fear, all that like external fear, like in the world, environmental fear, I guess, is superseded by the fear he has for his mother. So I wouldn't say that it becomes less apparent. I think it becomes more apparent. Because as someone with a parent, like that's a very real thing, right? Like I've felt before where, you know, I had to maybe not like physically put myself at risk, but definitely mentally in order to like appease the expectations of a parent, you know?
Yeah. But what I was getting at was just like how the film, like it sets this foundation of like constant on edge fear. And there's one that actually, to me, maybe Ari Aster knew this, was a massive trigger. And it's kind of funny. It's funny because like it's not like this actual I mean, it can be a very serious thing, but like I hate spiders. You hate spiders?
Yeah.
And that fear of spiders was born out of the discovery of a specific spider, and that is the brown recluse. And so literally, he walks into his apartment, and on his door is like a sign saying, "Hey, we have found that there are brown recluses in this building." And then as he's walking in, you see one on the floor. And so like that's kind of funny.
Not just that, because it's scary enough to see a spider. Before it comes into Beau's line of vision, it's under the couch.
Gone.
So
it's gone.
Yeah, exactly.
And me and you have a funny story that we don't have to tell it, but like of a spider going behind a poster when like 10 years ago, when we were like, we're going to leave this house actually now because like
we threw a shoe. I'll give an abridged version. Saw a spider, freaked out. We were playing FIFA. Threw a shoe. Missed the spider. Spider disappeared. We went to Waffle House for like an hour and then just assumed that the spider died or left. And didn't worry about it anymore.
Yep. But for me, like it's those tiny little things that like set this foundation. So his foundation, his resting state is fear. You know what I'm saying? Yes, it all stems from his mother, but it's just that fear. And then even little things where like, just weird stuff happens. Like the thing about he gets this note, throughout the night. But like little things where it's like, yeah, there's sirens and there's murmuring going on outside, but it sounds just like a city. But then the next morning when he calls his mom after his key's been stolen, his mom starts getting frustrated, and then you hear like gunshots and things like erupt outside. And so it's like, this might lean into it's all kind of a projection theory where it's like he's getting probably triggered by his mom and then it just starts amplifying everything outside.
Absolutely. That's when like there are literal riots happening outside, right?
Yeah.
Is when he gets on the phone with his mom and after he gets the phone call from the UPS man, where is he when he gets that phone call? Is he at the store trying to...
he's back in his apartment after he spent the night outside.
Okay.
So he's like trying to clean up everything, right?
Yeah.
His place is trash because the whole literal mob, like,
right.
I just think it's so funny. It's
Went
so sad.
inside,
So
and that one guy was still dancing.
Yeah. He takes medicine, doesn't have any water because of course there's no water.
Yeah.
He goes across the street, which that shot of him running from his door to the store, running through everything was great. He like dodges bullets like getting to the store, and then literally his worst fear is that because he left the door open because he doesn't have his keys, is that the entire mob finds their way into his building, and they all go directly to his apartment.
Right.
Yeah.
Directly to his.
So yes, so he spends the night outside. He's in his apartment cleaning up when he gets the phone call, or when he calls his mom.
So then he tries to, I guess, decompress in a bath.
Yep.
Gets in the bath and he's drawing the bath when he gets the phone call because
you're right.
It's all overflowing because he's been standing there for like an hour or longer,
yeah.
right?
Well, more because it goes from like day to night, right, or something like that.
Right. So he's drawing a bath. He gets the call. He decides to take the bath to try and decompress. And this was like the first, because this was all surreal, but it all seemed to like track. It all seemed like consistent. But when he's laying in the bath and he gets hit with like a bead of sweat on his forehead and he looks up and the guy's just like up there like a ninja, that's when I was like, that was my first what the fuck? Because it just seems so different. Like it seemed different in tone. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because there's so many like instant questions of like, one, how long has that guy been there? Because he looks like he's like frantic, like trying not to fall. He's sweating, obviously. Why is he there? What's he hiding from?
Yeah.
But then like how Beau reacts, he just sort of looks at him.
Right.
And they have
frozen
this, like,
with fear, right?
Yeah, but like it's this fear, but also this look of like, do I need to move? Do I need to you know what I'm saying? Like he's just sort of there. And then, of course, the brown recluse crawls on his face.
Yeah, that got me. That got me.
That was awful. So then he falls, and they have like this tussle in the bathtub. Beau's naked. I'm gonna say a sentence that will come into play later. Just forgive me, but we see that Beau has very engorged testicles.
Yeah. Yes.
It's very brief in this scene, but like that actually comes to play later. And so then just hell just breaks loose, right? He runs out. He's screaming.
So it wasn't nighttime though, because when he's screaming outside, it's daytime, right?
It is daytime. So you're right. But he's run outside screaming. So now he looks like the birthday boy stab man killer, right? But then we get this kind of social commentary. It's brief, but it's throughout the film, like with the daughter and like social media, they're filming stuff. But then we get a sort of commentary on like police brutality, where he's this unarmed, butt naked man screaming for help, and the cop is like gun drawn, and he's like,
"Oh yeah,
don't like you're gonna make me do this."
Yeah, he literally has his hands up. Literally has his hands up. He's like, "Don't make."
I'm not moving.
don't make me shoot you, basically, right?
Yeah.
And then he gets stabbed by a birthday boy stab man.
He gets hit by a car.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
He gets hit by a car, and then he wakes up in the suburbs to find that he had been stabbed by a birthday boy stab man, which just shows that whole scene. His hands torn apart. That was awful.
In the side and in the hand, and ugh.
But that brings us to the suburbs. We're already at 45 minutes. It's gonna be a long episode, probably. There's so much to discuss. But
There's a
anyway,
lot to discuss.
briefly, let's try and I guess we can try and be quick, within reason. The suburbs. He's being taken care of by. Let me pull up the actual cast list.
This overbearing family.
Amy Ryan and Nathan Lane, Grace and Roger.
Yeah. He is a doctor and she's a lawyer. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that.
Anyways, rather
he's
than taking him to the hospital, they have him at their home because he's a surgeon, I guess, so he can just do it at home. And it becomes apparent pretty quickly that something's weird there. First of all, he has cameras all over the place, and she's trying to like tell him at one point.
Yeah, she's like trying to like sneak him messages and say like, she says like, stop incriminating yourself. She just keeps trying to tell him, which we'll get to Channel 78 in a second.
Mm-hmm. But they have a daughter who is obviously
Tony.
not okay with him being there, but also just the way that she's treated by her parents. Because she also has a dead brother who died in.
Yes.
You go. You talk.
Sorry.
You talk. No. You talk.
Well, no, I was saying like she's the other forgotten child, right?
Right. Right.
Because they have like a sanctuary. For what's his name? Crap. I can't remember his name.
It's not crap.
Anyway, yeah. So he, this like, there's this whole empty room that Beau could have stayed in, that they won't open. So Tony acts out, and that's putting it very, very lightly, actually.
She's doing drugs.
Crazy drugs, yeah.
She's hyping up Jeeves, who is like a unstable vet who was on duty with their son and saw him die. And then later, I'm not sure if it was later or if it was when her son died, but he was found shooting everybody. Like
shooting like dead bodies and stuff.
Right. Doesn't matter if it was an enemy, if it was his own like crew. I don't know. I don't want to say like battalion's like big, right? It's not battalion, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Fire team if we were playing COD.
But yeah, this to me, like, it's so funny because this goes from like these sort of stereotypes of like the crazy crime-ridden city, right, to like the picture-perfect, sweet, caring suburbs, but also that there's something off. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of a thing in like in cinema and like stories where it's like it's the safe, quote unquote, safe suburbs, but something's not quite right. You know?
Mm-hmm. They're both calling him like sport or kiddo, like as if he is a child, even though he's a grown man, right?
Roger talks like an outdated like sitcom dad.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So, you want to talk about Channel 78? Because we do need to keep this moving along.
Yes, and so long story short, he's trying to get home. He gets, he finds out that his mom's actually dead. Make it very clear that her head got blown up or something by a chandelier. And Roger keeps saying, I'm going to take you home. I'll drive you. They won't let him fly. And it keeps doing the gaslighting of like, oh, we'll go tonight. Oh, we'll go in the morning. So he's trying to get home. Is 78 before or after he smokes with Tony?
It's after.
Okay.
Because Channel 78's right before he has to get out of town.
Out.
Yeah.
So she tries to take him, but like gives him some drugs and like, he can't get out of there.
I don't think she was trying to take him. I think she was just trying to get him in the car and get him to smoke with her because she needed to feel something.
he's in a very lucid state of mind, right? And so Grace is like, trying to leave, and she whispers like Channel 78. And so he turns on the TV, and it's him. It's like a camera in the room, and it's him. And he can rewind. He can pause. This is actually where I expected some horror elements, and we got some.
Yeah.
But I expected him to like rewind something and like see something crazy, right?
Doesn't he fast forward and see what he's going to do in the future?
But then he fast forwards, and he sees the end of the movie. Actually, like he sees the scene of him sitting at his mom's house at the funeral.
Does he? I thought he just
Yeah,
saw.
No, it's quick. He's like sitting on a ledge, and then he sees the scene of him like rowing the boat out into like nowhere, which is the very very end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
He sees himself. He sees himself coming out of the woods.
Okay.
And then that all happens. Yeah. So then Tony's like, "Hey, let's get fucked up, right? You know, let's go." And she takes paint into her dead brother's room and tries to paint over everything. You know, trying to, I guess, to try and like erase that. And she's like begging him. She's like, "Let's get fucked up. You won't get fucked up with me. You know, you hate me. You're just like them. Blah blah blah." And he's like, "I just, hey, what's going on?" And so she chugs paint.
Yeah.
She chugs paint, and then she dies.
She dies. Well, first she paints his name on the wall. So when the mom walks in, whose name I can't remember,
Grace.
When Grace walks in, she sees Beau written on the wall of her dead son's room.
No, yeah. I think you're right.
She wrote Beau.
I thought it was, yeah. Okay.
She writes Beau on the wall, and then she's like dead from paint intoxication. So, and Beau has paint on his hands, I think, because he was trying to save her.
He's like holding her. Yeah, he's like holding her.
Yeah, right. So she tries to resuscitate her daughter, gets paint on her mouth, so it looks like she blew a Smurf, and then she's screaming, "What did you do? What did you do?" You know.
She's like, "I see you now." You know, she turns on him.
So then he runs out of the does she grab a knife? Does she go to the kitchen and grab a knife?
I'm not sure. Maybe, because he jumps out of the window, right?
Right. He jumps out of the window, gets glass in his head, and then she yells, "Jeeves, get him." Meanwhile, he has a literal like tracking monitor on his ankle.
Yes, he does. That's supposed
ankle
to monitor his health or whatever. So he's running through the woods, and this poor man just runs smack into a tree.
Mm.
And we have to preface, I think this is a good time. We're at the midway point, which we'll try and speed up. We should preface that, like, whenever he's unconscious, he has these dreams. We see these flashbacks to him on the boat as a kid when he meets Elaine. And then this dream of him in the bathtub, or like his mom trying to get him to take a bath.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually we see that there's like Beau. She's talking to Beau, but also Beau's already in the bath. It's like two of them kind of thing. And then we get that shot of her sending the other Beau up into the attic.
Right.
And I think she says, like, "We don't talk about you anymore," or something like that.
So there's two Beaus, and one doesn't want to get in the bath, and she sends that one up into the attic, and then she points to the other one and says, "Are you afraid?" And he says, "No." So the Beau that's not afraid is the one in the bath. But something bad happens to that one because the not afraid Beau is no longer exists. Does that make sense? Like if you had like two halves of your psyche and one was like courageous, like the hero.
I took it as like the more defiant Beau version of Beau got sent up to the attic.
Okay.
And got like put away.
Maybe.
And the one that like that complied was the one that survived. Because that's like
right.
That's like what trauma really is, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you just,
yeah. And then when he goes up in the attic at the end and there's that old thing in there, I thought that was maybe his dad, but maybe it's the other him.
It's the other him, yeah. And which could be,
even though it's not the same age.
Which could be metaphorical, or because I think I read somewhere, and I have to watch it again, that apparently the old guy up there is wearing the same T-shirt as the young Beau in the dream.
Oh, okay. Well,
I didn't recognize that.
That makes sense.
That could be that he literally had a twin brother that has been up there for 35 years, or it could just be more of a. Are you saying
metaphorical?
Are you saying that what happens in the attic is not real?
No, I'm not
must
saying.
Be real.
I'm not. No, I'm saying. Well,
we'll get.
I don't know. I don't know what's real and what's not, but everything can't be real in this movie.
That's true. Which brings us to the woods. So he goes to the woods, and again, I'm trying to be quick. He gets brought into this like traveling troupe, like carnival, not carnival, but like play, like traveling, like play troupe, the Orphans of the Woods, whatever. And he gets to watch this play that is kind of like about his life in the sense, not like literally, but like him. And he goes on this crazy long journey. And this sequence is gorgeous.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
but he meets this woman who is pregnant and who like helps him and is like quickly bonded to him. Sorry, I just wanted to get that out there because I think it directly connects to the play and how he sees himself in it. So continue.
Yeah, because she's kind of like that maternal figure that actually is kind and caring for him. But long story short, I'm gonna be quick and I apologize. But in this play, he goes on this journey where he makes different choices. Right? He goes out into the world and he falls in love with a woman and has 3 sons. I believe the exact phrase of the film was, "She will become pregnant because you will have sex with her, and you will have 3 kids." And then he gets separated from his family by this massive wave, which you could see that as a wave of depression, you could see that as a wave of circumstance, whatever. And then spends the rest of his life, so he's an old man, searching for
his family.
And then he comes back, finds his village again, goes to a play, and then the play is about him, his story, and it's his 3 kids on stage, and he was reunited with his sons, and it's a really beautiful that scene was a really beautiful, powerful moment.
Yeah.
But then it also takes a turn where he then tells his sons about his father and how his dad died at the moment of climax when his mother was impregnated. So we'll just speak like adults here. The orgasm killed him. And so then Beau tells his kids, that's why I can't be with a woman. I can never be with a woman because if I do that, then I'll die. And then the dream ends with his kids saying, well, then how did you have us?
And then he finds himself standing next to this pregnant woman who I'm not sure if it's literally in the credits or if it was just in a review, but I saw her referred to as Hero Beau's wife. So like the implication being that she's almost like this Virgin Mary figure that he comes into this village and he finds his home essentially. They were very welcoming of him and they were like, let's clothe you and blah, 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 blah. Come join us. Haha, fairies of the forest. And then he found somebody who cared for him, which was her, right? And then without having sex, had 3 sons. So I guess the implication is that she could have been that for Hero Beau. But this is not a hero's story, is it, Hunter?
It is not. So then, at this moment, Jeeves has found him. But before that, we get this moment with this man who tells Beau, hey, your father's not dead. I worked with your mother to help him or something like that, implying that the father is still alive, or at least was. But
Beau thinks that man could be his father,
yes,
right?
Beau says, he calls him dad. In this really, unfortunately funny moment he says, Dad, run, and then he explodes because Jeeves is here with a grenade launcher. And, Jeeves is he's just blowing everybody up, blowing them down with an assault rifle, but then falls and has this assault rifle on his shoulder and just blows his own shoulder up for whatever.
Well, because doesn't one of the guys pull a gun out of the giant horn thing?
Yeah, out of something.
And so maybe he shot him and then he fell over, but then just kept firing into his own body. Yeah. Anyways, Beau gets away, right?
But he gets zapped or whatever,
incapacitated. And then we get another vision. That one, that was either the bath or that might have been... No, because we already knew how... At some point there was a dream sequence where we find out how he was conceived and why his dad's not around.
Yes, right. Where his mom's telling him.
Anyways, we get another dream sequence. It could have been something It could have been
Yeah,
anything.
or
really.
it's like maybe we actually see like the full story of Elaine, where like she kissed him on the boat and then had to leave,
maybe.
and was like, "Wait for me," and he was like, "I'm in love with her, and I'll wait, whatever."
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like, but you know, throughout this time, we're getting stories from his mom saying like men are blind, you know. Your father and your grandfather have this hereditary thing where like as soon as you have an orgasm, then you're dead. And so Beau, this is where we start seeing. This is why I talked about the engorged testicles. We start seeing this extremely repressed sexuality, and it just adds to his like stunted growth as a person. He's, you know, he wears like 8-year-old PJ, like child PJs. You know, it has his name on it.
Well,
The way
those
he
were given to
acts-
him.
Well, no, I know, but like it all plays into this like he's a child kind of thing, you know. Um, so then we go to he comes out of the woods, hitchhikes his way home to Wasserton. So the town's named after his mom. And then we get to his house, right?
Right.
The funeral's already over.
The corpse, it's an open casket funeral for some reason, even though she has no head.
Yep.
And she has not been laid to rest yet.
And she's like this mogul, multi-million, like crazy rich.
Right. Has like
person.
a company that sells like
Everything.
medicine and like all kinds of stuff, but it's all like fear-based. It's all like, you better take this, otherwise something bad will happen.
And it says stuff like it's perfectly safe, like that kind of language.
Right, right. Beau is like the face of the product line for as long as he's a kid, I guess. Anyways, we come to this picture that is her name's Mona, right?
Mona, yeah.
Mona, his mom, but it's all these different faces. I guess all of her employees and all her little cronies, right? And when Beau takes a closer look at this picture, we see his therapist. We see
Roger.
We see Grace and Jeffrey.
Roger.
Oh, Roger. Okay, I thought when I said therapist, I thought you were naming him Roger.
Oh,
Therapist
no.
is Jeremy. We see. I think we see Birthday Boy Stabman. We see people that were in the mob.
The tattooed like homeless guy who like chases him to his door all the time or whatever.
Right. We see all these people that he's come across on his journey, in the picture. So at that point, it's like, oh shit, she's been pulling the strings the whole time.
Yeah.
And again, this is a point in the film where it could be one of two things, right? We could take the stance that the events of this film literally happened, right? And his mom like is just gaslighting him the whole time. And she literally was just like paying off this mob of people to live outside his place. But not only that, to reinforce all the fears that she instilled in him as a child, right? To show him that mommy's always right sort of situation. Mm-hmm. So when he left the door open, they're like, shit, we're going in his place because we're being paid to show him why he shouldn't have left the fucking door open. Yeah. Right? Stuff like that. Like you can take it literally in that direction.
Or it's like, sorry, last thing. Or it's like he's being punished for like, because he missed a trip to come see her.
Well, sure. Yeah.
Like, but I'm saying like it's something that it's like, you know.
But that doesn't really add up because the people that if this is what we're going with, the people that are paid to like watch over him took his keys.
I guess you're right, yeah.
They took his keys and his luggage.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really add up. But the other way that we can look at this is that his mother actually died, and he's trying to find a way to cope with it. And he's so ingrained in his fears from his childhood or his whole life, really, that he needed to find a way to manifest her. And so she had to be like this like puppet master. And so he just saw, because I think I prefer the theory where Beau sees things. Like Beau like creates manifestations in the world. he's like hallucinating essentially.
Yeah.
And so the theory that when he's looking at that picture, he's seeing the people that he saw, even though that's not who they are, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that make
It
sense?
does. No, yeah, it does. It does. So it's like
Okay.
it's all trying to like justify or not justify, but like reconcile.
Right, because
Um,
he's got to reconcile. This woman was his entire worldview, even if it was for the worse, right? And then she gets killed by a chandelier, which is another thing that just like probably wouldn't happen, but it's also probably the kind of thing that she would warn him about.
Yeah,
Right?
because she tells him, which we'll get to how she comes back, that one of her employees that like helped raise him volunteered to die so her family would never have to work again, like generational money.
Right.
Or if it is all literal, maybe she just had somebody killed for it, which maybe she would have.
Maybe she
she's
would've.
portrayed as this, over the top evil woman. But let's talk about the sex scene because Elaine's there. Which again, she used to work for his mom. It's said, she worked for her.
Mm-hmm.
And it is kind of odd, obviously, how like they haven't seen each other in 40 years or something like that, and they barely have a conversation. Next thing you know, they're in bed, sleeping together.
Do do do.
But yeah, Mariah Carey comes on.
Do 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 do. That is. Can I say that in terms of like just shock factor and humor, that might be the best use of a song in a movie.
Yeah, and
Like,
she
it's
starts it
just-
over too.
Yeah, she has to start it over because the vibe's not right and she needs to get back into it.
But this scene to me is so fascinating because it showcases so many different traumas and like behavioral things at once. In the sense of one, we've established that he has this hyper suppressed sexuality. Like he's never had an orgasm. Let's just say it like it is, because he thinks that if he does, he'll die, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, in a sense, have you ever seen there's an old, I'm not sure if it's real, maybe it's real, but it looks like an old '80s commercial, or like it's like a health class, abstinence, like pro abstinence type thing,
Okay.
and it's like this classroom, and this guy raises his hand, and he's like, "Well, what if I want to have sex before marriage?" And the teacher turns around to him and says, "I guess you'll have to be prepared to die." Like says it like very like a matter of factly, and I'm honestly not sure if it's a joke, because those are the kind of things that unfortunately that like in super like maybe super religious, super strict type households or like communities, you're kind of given that picture of like, oh, this will lead to horrible, horrible things if you
Right.
whether it's, and like I said, we're all adults, we can speak candidly, whether it's premarital sex or masturbation, whatever, they're like, oh, then this is the end. This is some horrible thing. So Beau has that view that he's literally going to die. But at the same time, he's so unsure of himself and he doesn't have the ability to like make his own choices or have his own boundaries that he still is like, I'm going to do this, I guess.
Right.
Like so like even though his view on his sexuality is wrong and is unhealthy and it's incorrect, he's still like, I have to like go along and be complicit with these things because because I love her, she loves me, that's what I have to do. So I thought that's an interesting when you look at it like that like contrast is like they're both bad, but because he's so unsure, has no I don't say self-confidence because that kind of oversimplifies it, but like no assertiveness in himself, he just goes along with it, even though he's like, this is going to literally kill me, I thought that was interesting.
It is interesting.
But he doesn't die. He has an orgasm, and he survives. And for a split second, he's like, got relief, and he's like, oh, I'm like, this is not true. But then in a way, it comes true where it's like, oh, if you have sex, horrible things happen. Because then out of nowhere, Elaine freezes and she's dead.
Right. She is dead on top of him. Stuck in the position that they finished in.
Yeah. which is like the antithesis of what was described to him, because his mom basically said that the second his dad finished, he was instantly dead.
Right.
And so it's just like, it's honestly, this is a way that maybe it's like a way to symbolize his guilt even more, is that now he did it to somebody else.
Well, sure,
You know
because
what I mean?
because his mom is never going to, or at least it seems that way, never going to like actually harm her son. She's just going to try and teach him lessons, right? Through fear, like it's all fear based, and so when he does the thing that she told him not to do, my assumption at this point is that she kills Elaine, right?
Yeah,
Like
somehow, in some way.
poison dart, or I don't know, something. I don't know. Poison tipped condom, perhaps.
Yeah,
Anyways,
because she appears right afterwards.
right. Mona is in the room, and Beau is filled with guilt. So directly prior to that is probably the first time in the film where Beau does not look afraid, because he's confronted something, had sex, and for a split second, the consequences weren't there, right? It might have been the first time in his life that the consequences weren't there for, doing something. And she appears, and he's filled with this guilt and this shame and this fear again, because his mom is not dead. Even though he says, I knew you weren't dead because I saw the birthmark on the hand of the corpse and I knew it wasn't you. Right? Where do we go from here? So
this is when it kind of all starts to unravel, right? So then his therapist, like, they just have this long discussion of like this heart to heart of like, she's just talking about how, he's never been grateful. I hate to say it, but it's this quintessential like parent talk of like, you're ungrateful, you don't know.
right.
And this shows like the parental resentment, which is a very real thing, where it's like, you took my life from me. Like, I gave you everything and now I have nothing. Like, there's like parental envy of like, well, you're younger, you have your life ahead of you. Like, and I lost mine, which is interesting because she's a billionaire. And
Right, she's super successful, right?
broke. And it's this like, you never loved me like I loved you, which is just gaslighting, it's just manipulation. And then his therapist shows up and they listen to tapes from their therapy sessions, and I had plans to make. But Beau is like asking about the truth for his father and begging for, I need the truth about my dad, like blah, 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 blah. And so then we get to the big shock of the movie. He's talking about his dream of like, you put another me in the attic. And she has a line though, where she says, that wasn't a dream, you idiot. That was a memory, right? Forces him to go up into the attic, which, I guess in a lot of films can be like the subconscious, that kind of stuff, suppressed things. And in this attic, he finds a man who's, frail, got a long beard. As we discussed earlier, because of his t-shirt, it's implied that that is the other Beau from his dream. I thought at first, like you did, oh, I guess that's his dad. He's been chained up there for forever. But then we hear a voice, I think it says like, my boy or something like that. And he turns the light, and there is a giant, like 7-foot penis
With like four arms.
with a face and like alien arms. It's like the Thing, like spider
Right,
legs.
right.
Almost.
Spider legs. And it is, it is something else. That's when, if people weren't lost before that, I think a lot of people probably got lost right there, right?
Yeah.
So his dad's a dick.
There we go. We said the same line. And that's what I was talking about. Yeah, I said something earlier where I said something can be like literal, but also very metaphorical, where it's like, I've heard a few different theories on this. Sorry, I know I'm rambling. Where it's like, one, the literal thing is like, yes, his dad is actually just a giant penis, which is something. Because Mona even says like, do you have any idea what it took to like bring you into this world?
Mm-hmm.
Implying like, how would she even be, impregnated? But I was gonna say, like, in the sense of like, okay, yes, literally his dad's a dick, but also maybe his dad left, so he
Well,
wasn't he was a dick.
I
Maybe
don't
his
I don't mean to be insensitive here,
Mhm.
because I don't think anyone ever deserves to be a single mother. But after getting to know Mona throughout this movie, would you blame Beau's father if he left? Like, do you think that him leaving caused her to be that way, or do you think she was already like this
I
narcissistic?
well, she mentions her mother and all the like how her mother
Right.
didn't show
That's what
her
I'm.
love.
Yeah. Exactly.
So no, but I would like to think that any father or any parent in general who
Mm-hmm.
leaves for that reason, for being like this is so unhealthy, would try and take their child with them.
Maybe it's possible because she says that he died the second he orgasmed. So what if it was just a one night stand,
Maybe. And so that's another theory that I've
right? And
heard
so
is
he didn't
that
even know he had a son.
maybe like I've heard theories that like the fact that there's a 7-foot penis in the attic, as far as like that's his father, is that's literally the only connection, is the fact that through a penis he was conceived. And
Right.
so
Well,
that's
think
all
about
this.
at the beginning of the movie. He's looking at a picture of his dad, and it's just like a faded face. There's
Yeah, the
no
face is not is obscured. Um yeah, and I guess that's interesting too, is that there's no sort of, oh look, this is when me and your dad were dating when he was still alive, like there's nothing like
right.
that.
Right. So it's almost like if she was setting him up to think that she had those pictures, she would have used one. Because, like, yeah, it's not a picture of them, it's just a picture of him. And he's, like,
Yeah.
walking and you can't see his face, right?
Yeah, and it's yeah.
Anyways,
But like, and so maybe she's trying to, maybe out of her own embarrassment, her own shame
mm-hmm.
of being left by her husband, or just having a one night stand that poor child. She says, "I'm going to tell him that he's dead." You
Right,
know.
right.
But that's not where it gets. That's not where it gets. Then Jeeves, all of a sudden, even though he blew himself up, right, comes busting through the glass, stab, stabbing the giant balls,
Yeah,
trying to kill this giant penis. And then with one of its alien arms, the penis just stabs him through the head, and now he's dead.
right. So Jeeves is dead. The penis is probably dying because it can't really, unless it has some sort of powers to heal itself. Anyways, so he leaves the attic, right? And his mom is just like yelling at him, berating him, saying like me.
That was your father.
Right.
Look what I
So
had to do.
this is the other point in the movie where Beau lets go of his fear for like a fleeting moment, because he starts to choke her and he's like going
Yeah, he
to
snaps.
kill her, right? Yeah, he snaps, and then he like comes out of it and he's like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like I would never do that." Then she trips and falls, and it's not even like a far fall, right?
See, yeah, like
She falls into like a trophy case or something
yeah.
like that
See, that to me
and
was like,
dies.
yeah,
Quote.
it was like that to me felt like dramatic manipulation and
Right,
gaslighting.
because you doing anything to harm your mother, you're going to kill me, right? Like
Yeah,
why would you give me anything but what I want?
like
That's literally going to kill me.
she stops and is like staring at him, and she's obviously flustered and frightened, and then goes like, and then just collapses.
Right.
And
That,
it looks like an
yes.
act to like make him feel even worse, right? So then he's like, well, I guess there's nothing left for me here. So he like sets sail.
Goes to the backyard and sets sail on his boat. And then he comes into this
Giant
like arena, like Coliseum sort of situation, with like a jumbotron above him, and like he's literally on trial for allegedly his crimes of not loving her enough, right?
Yep.
And in that trial, he can't escape. He's chained. His lawyer,
His poor lawyer, right?
yeah, falls to his death.
Well, he's
And then
thrown, I think, right? He's thrown to his death. But it's interesting too. Sorry, is that his defense lawyer, because he's on trial, the prosecution, which is with his mom, is so loud and so of the front, and the defense lawyer is so far away in the back that you can barely hear him.
Right. You can't hear him. He doesn't have a microphone or, whatever, right?
Yeah, just to kind of show like what's happened to like the like stronger Beau, the defense,
That's right.
is that it's so far back that no one can even hear him. And then eventually, I guess his subconscious or whatever this you want to call this, just kills it and throws it off and throws it onto this rock, and he's dead.
Mm-hmm. So then I wouldn't just say, because it was movie in a minute, you said the boat capsizes, but it's much more violent than that.
Yeah,
right.
It like blows up.
Yeah, well, it flips, but it just like flips around real quick, and then he's allegedly dead, right?
Yeah, he's like trapped underneath it, I think.
So that's the end of the movie. We get credits.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's one scene, there's one little part at the end, and then we can wrap it up, is that like, he's like begging everybody. He's like, trying to talk and begging with his mom, and she doesn't even answer him. And he has this look, and it's like the only, I guess it's like the third instance of the film where he doesn't look like he's afraid. He looks like he's just kind of like, maybe it's like, it's two things. Maybe he's like finally seeing her and being like, oh, this is all you. Like, you're doing this to me. This is all from you. But at the same time, like, accepting, like, I'm never going to escape this, so this is it. You know what I mean? Like, he just sort of accepts what's coming to him. But in an interesting way, not from a place of fear, but a place of just, like, it's not a positive thing, but it's just, like, for the first time, I guess he's like stands up, kind of, his face is not guilt. It's more just steady and just like, all right, I guess this is okay. You know what I mean? I thought that was interesting.
And then he dies. I have my own theory, because I know this is an Ari Aster film and it wasn't going to have a happy ending, but I want one.
Yeah.
As someone with anxiety, I don't want to believe that it's just going to consume me and literally put me on trial and kill me, right? So my theory is that Jeeves comes in and kills the penis monster, and when he leaves the attic, that allows Hero Beau to escape, and then Fear Beau dies, but Hero Beau is out there in the world living his life.
Maybe.
So he essentially confronts his own fear by putting himself on trial, and then just kills it, says, fuck this, I'm not going to deal with this, or I'm moving past this. I'm capsizing the boat, if you will. That's not a metaphor, so it doesn't really make sense, but that's my hopeful theory. It's not true. I'm sure it's not true.
Or, maybe, it's the, like, dying unto yourself of being like, this version of me has to be dead, has to be in the past.
Mm-hmm. But if there was no other version, then it's just dead. Like, if it's the last version, then you're, if it's your ninth life as a cat. Then
as a cat, yeah. But, cool. That's the film. That was a ton, and we still didn't cover everything. But we're already like an hour and 20 minutes in, so we need to keep moving on.
We are.
So
what do you think?
Let me ask you.
Let me ask you. It's your episode.
Okay, fine.
Because if I ask at the beginning of the episode, I need to ask at the end of the episode. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, sure.
So it lines up, right? This is show notes. Y'all are getting a little window into how we figure shit out 119 episodes in, because we didn't figure it out on episode 1. So I'm going to ask you, but is Beau Is Afraid good?
It is good. It actually is very, very good.
I agree.
The more I sit with this film, the more I like it. The more I think it's really brilliant. Again, I think there's some things, like the penis monster is a lot. It is a lot. And it's very on the nose. But I had a blast watching.
It got you to, like, you didn't just laugh. You, like, grabbed me and were laughing hysterically. Yeah. So you enjoyed it in the moment.
Oh, yeah. Like, I was like, it had this moment of, like, of course.
Right. Yeah.
Of course it's a 10-foot penis.
What else could it have been?
Yeah, like, of course it's a 10-foot penis. But this film is actually super powerful. Like, it really
Yeah.
is. Like, there's so many things that I wish I didn't relate to in this movie where I was like, oh, I felt that. Like, I've been there. Oh, I feel that. And then, like, as a parent, where I'm like, oh, I don't want to be this. Like, wow. It's a lot, man. But, like, if you really just kind of let yourself be in it, it's really brilliant. It really is. I was completely enamored the entire time. Like, I was entranced by it the entire time. I might even say, I know for you, I'm sure it will be, but I might even say a Golden Good might be in this future.
This is a Golden Good. This is a Golden Good nominee for me, and we'll revisit it in 9 months and see if it holds up.
Yeah.
Do we do Golden Goods in December? Yeah, we do. Yeah.
And it's wild because like this is like possibly getting like an F cinema score from like
yeah. Who fuck them?
people are gonna hate this movie, like for big time.
Fuck them.
But it's so challenging. But like that's what film needs. Like that's really what I think. It's great that this. I think it's good enough that this film even exists. Is like a win for the film.
Yeah, so this is a big W, whether you like it or don't like it, that a major studio, because I would call A24 a major studio,
Yes,
that a major studio gave a full budget and full creative autonomy to a director as creative as Ari Aster. We need to do this more. This needs to be like, if we just scraped all the Marvel and DC movies off of the pavement and just like threw them in the sewer and started giving directors just like, hey, what passion project do you want us to fund? And because there weren't all these shitty fucking Marvel movies, people were going to see these passion projects in the theater. You see what I'm saying? Like, that would be like the golden age for me. Like, I don't know. And I get the impression that we have more of these coming up. Like, obviously, James Cameron has given this luxury with the Avatar films, and we're going to get 3 more of those. I don't know if you're excited. I am, because anyways.
Second one got me.
Greta Gerwig's Barbie, that is something that she thought was not going to be accepted by a studio, and a studio said, yeah, let's fucking do it. Oppenheimer, I think that everything that Christopher Nolan does is a passion project, and we need more of this. We do.
Yeah, and look, you can be commercial. Look, Chris Nolan, it might actually be his fault that we have Marvel and DC as the way they are now, because he took a comic book movie, like Batman, and made it.
Don't say that. It's a different. Well, Iron Man was drastically different.
I understand, but took that and said these can be art pieces, these can be studies of characters, these can be serious.
Yeah,
it's a far cry from Ant-Man and the Wasp and Black Adam. Let me make that perfectly clear. But that's what happens, is that they take this good thing and they just beat it to death and say, let's exploit it as much as we can, and now it becomes a shadow of itself. But
yes,
what I'm saying is, to your point, there was a time when, the most recent Scorsese film was like the big movie that came out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It wasn't just about IPs. And the unfortunate reality is that not only is this movie not an IP, it's an original idea, but it's also challenging. People don't want to be challenged anymore in the movies. They want to be like, I want to be comfortable and just see things that I like, and that's it. This movie, like, I felt like I ran a marathon, but in a really great way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think
a good marathon. Like you said, a PR.
But we must move on to Every Movie Sucks.
Every movie sucks. Every movie sucks.
Every movie sucks, yeah. Here we go. This is from something Mint One Joyer. The Dick Monster? Why? Very disappointed in Ari. Sad face. And I was never once sacred. I think they meant to say scared, and that's because this wasn't a horror movie. It was a drama comedy with touches of horror here and there. This one says Jeeves is relentless. That's true.
Yeah. BFigs04 says, gross and unnecessary. The entire movie was just dragging out nothing instead of actually forming a plot. Trying too hard to be sophisticated instead of actually making an interesting movie. Garbage. There are a lot of people who need films to like spell shit out for you, otherwise they think it's just garbage. If anything works with uncertainty, or like if anything ends being open to interpretation, people don't like it. I'm not going to name this friend, but I have a friend who hated Pig.
Oh no! What?
Hated Pig. And they're wrong. That friend is so wrong.
Did they say why?
Because it's not what they thought it was going to be when they were going into the theater, and because it has a more nuanced message than just I need to save my pig.
That's sad. Pig made me cry. I literally cried during Pig. This is Half Star Nerdy Edit says, couldn't finish the movie. My fiance and I felt extremely uncomfortable the entire time. Only made it through the first half and then left when we realized it was 3 hours long. Let me tell you, you weren't supposed to feel comfortable during this movie.
Yeah, this is a horror movie, y'all. What did you think you were getting into? Ari Aster.
And it's not a jump scare horror movie. This is supposed to make you feel uncomfortable.
Right.
I got one
Here's
more.
one. Every hour of this movie felt like running a marathon through broken glass. So you said you felt like you were running a marathon when watching it. This person did too, but they didn't like it. They didn't have fun.
Here we go, Half Star, and then we can start wrapping up. This is the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
That's the one you picked?
Wait, I got one more. Sorry, last one. Then I'm done, and then you can read one. I think if I had been killed during this movie, I would owe my killer a debt of gratitude.
Damn.
Oh, wait, the Half Star is for Patti LuPone being in it, and the sex scene where they're having sex to Mariah, Always Be My Baby. The other 2 hours and 55 minutes were torture. All right, all yours.
No, I'm not going to read another one.
No, that was the same one. It just I hadn't finished it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Go.
No, I'm not gonna. I'm not.
Why?
Because you're always like, all right, I'm gonna do one, and then you do one, and then you do three. That happens every damn week.
Sorry,
Just read your reviews, and then let's move on to the next segment.
I will work on that. Read us one more.
I've exited out of the webpage.
Okay, fine. Fine. We can do shindigs if you would better want to move on.
Yeah, we can move on. That's good.
Shindigs. It's time for news.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it pulled up yet. I'm sorry.
Movie news. It's time for news. It's time for the fucking movie news. We're talking about news and movies.
Okay, here we go. Ready?
Yep.
Let me pull it up. Let me get so I can see you at the same time. Sorry.
Okay, so I have news. If Hunter doesn't, Beau Is Afraid made $2.7 million in the box office this weekend, which is not a high number based on how much the budget was for the film, and could impact the likelihood that more films like this get made, which is sad. Unless A24 knew what they were getting into, but even then, other studios might look at those numbers and say, absolutely not. Continue, Hunter.
Yeah, I would say that they knew they would make any money back, but I hope that they make a little more than that.
Right.
In other news that's going to corroborate what you are feeling and go against more movies being in this is that Mario is about to break $1 billion.
Yeah.
Which is not what I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's see here. Jonathan Majors is in some trouble. He is being dropped by his management and PR team and has been dropped from multiple projects. And there is apparently rumors and a contingency plan in that he might be recast as Kang. That's happening.
Right after the mid-credit scene where there's like 100 of him. Yep.
Because apparently more people have come forward and are working with the DA too. So we'll see. That's that's an interesting developing story. James Gunn has shared that Superman Legacy has officially gone into pre-production and is going to be filming in Atlanta in January. Let's see here. Jolene Purdy has been cast as Mrs. Kikoa in a live-action Lilo and Stitch that is apparently going to be replacing a character called Cobra Bubbles, and people are pissed. So that's happening. Here's some cool news. Mortal Kombat 2 is going to start filming in June. That's exciting. Are you going to fall asleep?
No, I'm not gonna fall asleep. Yeah.
Are you not excited about Mortal Kombat 2? Did you not like the first one?
The first one was okay. Every time we review a movie like this, I don't give a shit about all the IP stuff, and it's all IP stuff. So I'm just waiting.
All the news. Mia Goth has joined Blade, so there's that.
IP.
Here's one that you sent.
I am peeing.
Here's one that you sent me. Adam Driver is in talks to play Reed Richards.
IP.
Here we go. Got a new teaser and a new title reveal for Godzilla and Kong: The New Empire. It's not comic books, but it's IP.
IP.
The original cast has returned for Insidious: The Red Door. It's not IP. I guess at this point it might be IP because it's franchise, right?
That is IP. Insidious movies have been going on because Insidious isn't that like the same universe as like The Conjuring, or is it not?
Oh, like Annabelle or whatever. I mean, it's James Wan, so maybe. Here's one that there's a trailer for a movie called The Boogeyman, which looks really scary. But I think it actually also might be IP because it's based off a Stephen King story. Does that count as IP? I think so.
We'll let that one pass.
Let's see here. Yeah, I think these are all IP. There's two that are not. Twilight is getting rebooted in a series. Juno Temple is in talks to star in a lead role in Venom 3. Elizabeth Olsen says she no longer has an active contract with Marvel and is not privy to any information about the Scarlet Witch's future, so she might be done. Apparently, Henry Cavill is in The Flash through archive footage, because that's, of course, happening. And then here's one that's not IP. Arnold Schwarzenegger is back in a movie called Fubar.
Okay.
And then the last thing, this is just kind of interesting news, is that Netflix, I didn't know they still did this, Netflix still rents out DVDs, and they're sending out their last one in September.
So we got to order all the DVDs.
All of them. And there's your news. News. IP news.
IP news.
All right, Zach, tell us about the Braves.
Okay, here we go. So 60 seconds on the clock. Go. The Braves have been on a 4-game losing skid. It's been pretty sad to watch after their 8-game win streak. Hunter texted me probably like 5 or 6 days ago and said, Are you used to us being the best team in the league yet? And we haven't won since. So
sorry.
It's on you, Hunter. And it's our starting pitching has continued to be on par, I would say. Like, we've had a couple games where we've given up 1-2 runs, but today being Sunday, April 23rd, Max Fried gave up 0 runs over 6 2/3 innings. That should be plenty. We had a 2-run lead, which, you can't score 7 runs every game, right? But when your starting pitcher gives you 6 2/3 with no runs scored, you should be able to pull it out. And our bullpen has been lackluster recently, which is upsetting because it's the same bullpen that was lights out just a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Like the same pitchers that are coming out that are struggling. We've been really struggling at home.
Yep.
We have a losing record at home, I think. Like, it's been rough. A lot of people complain about Marcelo Ozuna because he sucks. But if you look at our lineup recently, like in this 4-game losing streak, after Ronald Acuna, our lineup has been playing awful. Like, Ronald
Yeah.
Acuna has been getting on base. He had 3 steals last night, Hunter. 3 steals last night.
It's like him and like Kevin Pillar are playing the best.
And Sam Hilliard's been playing well.
But
Kevin
that, like, you
Pillar
would not
and
expect.
Sam Hilliard are platoon guys. They don't play every night because
Yeah.
for whatever reason, Brian Snitker, which I guess analytics say that we should play matchups. But when the people that you're putting in to play the matchups are hitting 7% on the matchup that they should be hitting at a higher percentage, I don't know if that made sense. Don't put
Yep.
them in the game. You see what I'm saying? Like if
Oh yeah.
if Marcelo Zuna matches up better against a right-handed pitcher, but he's hitting literally like 7.5% against right-handed pitchers, why would you don't make that. You don't make that move,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Anyways,
agree.
it's been a little bit of a frustrating week. I know baseball has its ups and downs. It's a very streaky game, and the Braves have plenty of time to get right. We still have players on the IL that will help us out. Last thing, Vaughn Grissom has been doing kind of a bang-up job. He's had multiple errors in multiple games since coming up, which is sad to see. But it does show why they weren't comfortable with him being the starting shortstop to begin the season. So, anyways, Braves will bounce back, I'm sure. It's not the end of the world, but the Mets are... Did the Mets win?
I'm about to check real fast. Hold on.
If the Mets won, they are now first place in the
The Mets
in the
were
NL
losing.
East.
The Hawks lost.
Okay, well, it's just a shitty day. How did Atlanta United do?
Atlanta United won.
Okay, well, there's something to cheer for. Anyways,
The Mets lost.
Okay, so we're tied with the Mets,
No,
correct?
we're a half game up.
We're a half game up.
We're still a half game up. Yep.
Interesting.
But that was
Okay,
very brave of
we
you,
are.
Zach. That was so brave.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Fucking thanks.
Yeah. It's whiskey shots. Are you gonna do a shot of whiskey or no?
I had a rough. No, I'm not. I'm gonna drink some water in whiskey's name.
Here.
I'm gonna go get some water.
Cheers to whiskey.
I drank a lot on Friday night, and I don't want to drink any whiskey. Okay.
Yeah. No, I get it. You're just fine. He's going to get some water right now. Going to get some water. Gonna get some water so he can do whiskey shots. He can do whiskey shots, yeah, yeah. He also has a snack. I can't really tell what it was.
It's trail mix.
Oh, nice. All right, so whiskey. I saw Jack today. Makes me miss whiskey.
I
Whiskey,
saw
we
Jack
love you.
today too because I was with you like 2 hours
Yep.
ago. 2 whiskey.
Cheers. All right.
Where can they find us, Hunter?
They can find us on the internet. You can find us on Twitter at BIIG Podcast. You can email us at BIIGpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Bud Is A Good Podcast. You can follow me at Hunter Callahan Music everywhere. You can follow Zach on Instagram at Zach2, the number, the THA, future.31. And, like and subscribe and stuff and, all that good stuff. We haven't posted our schedule for next month, but we're gonna do it next week.
That'll be posted on the Instagram. I don't think we don't post it other places, do we?
No, but we can. Whatever.
Okay. I'm just trying to tell them where
Cool.
they can find it, Hunter.
You can find that on Instagram for sure.
Cool.
But that's it.
Cool. So, go Braves.
Go Braves.
All right, bye.
Bye.
But is it good podcast? Yeah.